What's going on, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome back to the channel. I hope you all are healthy and well on this beautiful day. Welcome, all my new supporters. Welcome. Today we'll be reacting to a highly recommended video. Original video link will be down below in the description, of course. Feel free to share your honest thoughts and opinions in the comments. Today we'll be reacting to the moment the world stopped trusting America. Here we go. Annual meeting 2026. I remember this forum. I reacted to both speeches by Trump and Carney same day because they was really going neck to neck that day. And Trump made some crazy statements, you know? He made some crazy statements. So I'm not surprised as to why this is the first thing we are seeing before we even hit play. I mean, I know they're going to bring this up because that was wicked. The things Trump was saying on that podium, and like he was directly like coming towards Mark Carney, like pointing at him and everything, like pretty outrageous and disrespectful. Let's jump right into this video, man. Why the world stopped trusting us.
Every January, the world's most powerful political and economic leaders fly into Davos, Switzerland for the annual meeting of the World Economic Forum. But this year was different. Europe arrived on edge, rattled by Donald Trump's threats towards Greenland and his increasingly confrontational posture towards America's own allies. The atmosphere was tense. All eyes were on Trump as he prepared to take the
Mind you, I watched every single speech at the Economic Forum from all the world leaders. And I want to say just about every single one of them had something to throw in there about Trump. Like they just wasn't happy about his speech and what he was saying. And seriously, everybody was coming there to keep it respectful and, just talk business and everything and things we could, pursue in the future and fix for the economy. Well, everyone's economies and, here comes this guy.
allies. The atmosphere was tense. All eyes were on Trump as he prepared to take the stage and dominate the headlines. But before he could, something unexpected happened. A leader from a country of just 40 million people stepped onto the stage and delivered a speech so blunt, so ruthless, that many geopolitical analysts are now calling it one of the most consequential speeches made by any global leader in decades.
For decades, countries like Canada prospered under what we called the rules-based international order. This bargain no longer works. We are in the midst of a rupture, not a transition. Great powers have begun using economic integration as weapons. The middle powers must act together because if we're not at the table, we're on the menu. We know the old order is not coming back. We shouldn't mourn it. We have something too. The capacity to stop pretending, to name reality, to build our strength at home, and to act together.
That leader was Canadian Prime Minister Mark Carney. Fresh off a visit to Beijing and a major trade deal with China, Carney took the stage and did something almost unheard of as he compared U.S. hegemony with the fall of the Soviet Union and announced that the future will look nothing like the past. Carney's speech.
Carney been making history out there in Canada. I'm talking about making history. He been going around the world meeting with world leaders and stuff that, leaders of Canada have never even thought to meet with. They was like, we got too much tension. We're not gonna go there. We're not gonna have a meeting with them. Nope. But Mark Carney, I feel like this whole situation, I feel like it's deeper than just, the ego and everything, like how the other leaders, some people could say they had egos, because they didn't reach out to the specific world leaders that Mark Carney has been reaching out to. But it seems like he's trying to call a peace treaty with everyone, basically. He's trying to do fair business with everyone. He wants to be mutual. He wants to be, should I say, that number one asset, should I say. Because think about it. Everybody wanted what the United States had. Everybody wanted to be allies with the United States or have some type of great relations because of what we could provide. The benefit that country would have. Seriously. But it goes the same, and it's the same way basically for Canada. Basically. Well, literally. So imagine two countries overpowered, they could provide a lot. They could provide a lot. I would say the United States could really provide military support. That's what they stand on. We have the highest military defense budget and stuff like that. We could send troops out in numbers and defend your country. But when it came to Canada, it's something deeper than just the military. I mean, they got the minerals. They have every single thing that we need. They have control of our water, our electricity. They got the oil. Should I keep going? There's just so much within Canada that the world needs, that the United States had, easy access to, basically. Seriously. We are literally neighbors. We are like this. We had the closest relationship out of all the other countries. Everybody wished they had that relationship that we had with Canada because of how much they could provide, how great the country truly is. It's not always about military in numbers. And the U.S. is finally realizing that, which is crazy. But the whole world been knew this. And look, they all doing business with Canada now. You see how it come back and just bite you in the behind? You see how it just came back and bit us in the behind? I'm sorry to go on a rant. It's just wicked, bro. And mind you, this is just one country we're talking about. Man, we're gonna pick beef with every single country. All of our allies are not happy with us at all. Seriously.
Soviet
Canada
Union
go take
and
our
announced
spot,
that the
man.
future will look nothing like the
playing.
past. Carney's speech received a standing ovation, and honestly, it was remarkable that Canada, a G7 country, a NATO member, a Five Eyes ally, and a nation that shares an 8,000-kilometer border with the United States, openly acknowledged what many people were afraid to admit. The era of U.S. hegemony is finally ending, and the system the U.S. built after World War II is breaking. But ironically, it is the United States itself playing a central role in that breakdown. But before we go any further, we need to slow down and break apart what is actually happening in this new fractured world. Because once you understand how Donald Trump sees power, Mark Carney's speech, and Europe's response, suddenly everything makes a lot more sense. To do that, I want you to look at this chart. This comes from G7.
Mind you, it's not just issues with Canada, He said Europe. How many countries are within Europe? Now take a guess and just take a guess, a wild guess, and think of a number. How many of the countries within Europe has Trump sparked controversy with? And how many of them have turned their backs? It done got so deep that they done shut down their stocks and created stocks within their own country. People are trusting their own economies and whatnot. Which I don't know why people wasn't doing before. Everybody had that trust within the U.S. and the system for some reason. And it just goes to show that even something so reliable as how the U.S. used to be, it could shut down and be so unreliable that quick and be so unloyal and cruel. Manipulators. Should I keep going? This is teaching everybody a true life lesson, a true business lesson. Yeah.
More sense. To do that, I want you to look at this chart. This comes from G7 Media, founded by political scientist Ian Bremmer. It ranks, on a scale from 1 to 10, how much leverage Donald Trump has over different countries. Despite all the tough talk, Trump has very little leverage over China. Last year, analysts started using the phrase taco, Trump always chickens out, to describe what happens when Trump confronts countries that can fight back. And China is the clearest example.
Wait a minute. You mean to tell me the whole time that's why everybody been referring to him as Taco? Why would I never even really question that? I'll be in the back of my head like Taco. I think that's just like a little nickname they got for him. I was gonna take the time later on to figure out what it meant, but it slipped my mind so many times because I hear it throughout the videos. Taco. That is wild. Look. Trump always chickens out. That's crazy. I've been hearing so many people refer to him as Taco. I'm like, what's this Taco? Everybody say Taco. Am I missing something? I'm thinking I'm going crazy the whole time.
When Trump launched his global trade war
I'm missing
last
out.
April, only one country immediately retaliated with matching tariffs. That country was China. Why? Because China has leverage. The U.S. economy depends heavily on Chinese manufacturing and supply chains. And when Trump threatened tariffs of 100%, 150%, and even 200%, U.S. markets reacted violently. Stocks sold off, investors panicked, and fears of a global recession surged. China didn't need to escalate. It just needed to wait. Eventually, the pressure shifted back onto Washington, and by October, Trump traveled to South Korea to meet with China's leader Xi Jinping, where both sides announced a truce, locking in tariffs at roughly 25%. That outcome wasn't a show of dominance. It was a recognition of limits. And this is where things get interesting, because countries like India, a democratic partner of the United States, are still facing significantly higher tariffs than China. Not because India is an enemy, but because India lacks leverage. And now, let's look at the other side of the scale. On this side of the scale, Trump behaves very differently. Not cautiously, not patiently, but very aggressive. This is where the phrase FAFO, F around and find out, comes in. Trump may hesitate with great powers, but with weak states, he doesn't bluff. And this is why the United States government launched a military operation against Venezuela, arrested Maduro and his wife, and flew them back to New York City, where they now sit in a Brooklyn jail cell. Venezuela has zero leverage against the United States. And the simple truth is, if you can't retaliate, you don't get negotiated with. And this brings us directly to...
I know, that's what I was basically going to say, because he said leverage. You got to be able to hold up some type of bargain or be able to match up with the U.S. You got to have some type of aggression and power, to make Trump respected. Because he will. Oh, he will. I noticed when it comes to, like, those other speeches, not specifically speeches, but those one-on-one meetings he has held, in the past with other country world leaders, and like the amount of disrespect was like mind-blowing. He was straight up saying things like, "You are literally gambling with world war." I'm like, what? How are you saying this to this man right now? Straight up, you're gambling with another world war. And we're just having a simple conversation. So the minute he doesn't get what he wants, we speak over him, or he sees you're trying to, what's the word? Dominate him. He's going to throw that military in the mix like he always does. Oh, the military's his backup, baby. If something were to go down, first people going is that military, best believe. What are we going to do, President Trump? Send the military. That's exactly what's happening. I promise you. If you listen to all these speeches and these one-on-one press conferences and these meetings held with other world leaders, that's all he refers to. That's his leverage right there. If you can't match that the slightest, meaning military, they kick rocks. That's basically what it means. Kick rocks, bro. You ain't opposed to no type of threat. And that's sad. And that's sad, ladies and gentlemen.
If you can't retaliate, you don't get negotiated with. And this brings us directly to Europe. Europe may view itself as America's closest ally, but Trump doesn't see Europe as a great power. On this scale, Denmark ranks 7 out of 10, meaning that pressure is indeed possible, and that's why Trump felt comfortable aggressively pursuing Greenland, an autonomous territory tied to Denmark. For weeks, Trump even floated the idea of using military force against a NATO member. But once you understand how Trump views power, who he pressures and who he avoids, the next question becomes even more important. What does this behavior actually produce? Because raw power and effective leadership are not the same thing. For decades, the United States didn't just lead the world because it was strong. It led because other countries trusted it.
For decades, countries...
That's what I'm saying. The U.S., our government be getting big-headed because they think, we basically it. Everybody needs us and wants us. The U.S. is only so great to a certain extent. We are so great because of the help, the materials, the goods, all of the other things coming from these other countries. Other countries helping us out and doing business with us is what makes us so great. Why? Because the U.S. is multicultural, or should I say multicultural. Somebody could beg the difference, say one or the other. Please correct me in the comments. Let me know. Please let me know. Correct me in the comments. But multicultural or multicultural. It's a tongue twister, baby. And that's why. That's basically what we got. It's very diverse. I gotta stop thinking that the U.S. is number one, biggest, and baddest, and everybody needs us. Other countries made us great, because they helped us. So the U.S. wouldn't be great without those other countries, right? Unbelievable.
Just lead the world because it was strong. It led because other countries trusted it.
For decades, countries like Canada prospered under what we called the rules-based international order. This bargain no longer works.
For decades, Western countries promoted the ideas of the international rules-based order, even though behind closed doors, all of us knew this was simply a facade. Because right now in 2026...
That's my word! Whoa! That's my word! It's all a facade. Yo, that's crazy. I've never heard nobody say that word. And truth be told, I thought I came up with that word. Oh, I'm still. I ain't never ever looked in the dictionary or heard nobody say facade. I always used to say it in the videos, but I stopped saying it for some time because I was like, am I just making up words now? You know, but nobody really judge me and like correct me in the comments. They probably be like, what is that? I ain't never heard nobody say that. It's all a facade. Oh, that just made me excited because I truly thought I made up that word. So I'm just pulling words out the archives, out the dictionary now in my mind. I ain't never heard that word a day in my life, bro. No way.
All of us knew
That's a
this was
word?
simply a facade. Because right now in
Facade.
2026, it's not China, Russia, or Iran who is the greatest source of global instability. That title now belongs squarely on the United States of America. Prime Minister Carney used a powerful analogy to explain this watershed moment. He described a shopkeeper in the Soviet Union who placed a sign in his window every morning that read, "Workers of the world unite." Everyone knew the sign was a lie. The shopkeeper knew it, the customers knew it, but as long as the sign stayed in the window, the system appeared intact. But the moment the sign came down, the illusion collapsed. Carney used this story to tell the world it's time to start taking down the signs of American hegemony that all of us have been placing in the window for so many decades. Because since the end of World War II, predictability was America's greatest strategic asset. Regardless of whether a Democrat or Republican became the president of the United States, the world could put up their sign in the window and pretend the rules-based order brought peace and stability. But now, everything has changed. Under Trump, the problem isn't American strength. The problem is American volatility. Tariffs appear overnight and disappear just as quickly. Security guarantees feel conditional, and long-standing allies are publicly pressured, threatened, and even humiliated. And when unpredictability becomes the norm, countries don't confront the United States head-on. They adapt, they diversify, and they quietly reduce their dependence.
Because it's like, why are we about to spark something with this country knowing the first thing they gonna rely on is that military? And when I say they, I talk about the government and Trump. Us people don't do nothing. Well, y'all voted for the man, but besides that, they gonna fall back on the low. We the United States is the aggressors. We are considered the aggressors, the bullies. So that gonna spark something with us. You know, Trump gonna get to sending the military out there, sending troops. You know, threatening with war and, oh, we're gonna hold you accountable of this. Well, you owe us because we helped you with that. You know, so all the help eventually it gets held over your head. It's like, so was it really genuine help or was it business? Like eventually this country's gonna owe us. That's what y'all was thinking. Eventually this country will owe us because what we have done for them. And then he might say something like, you wouldn't be a country. Your country wouldn't be left if it wasn't for our help or our military. I'm like, oh my gosh. I know how it's going to go. And every country, every world leader of all the other countries, they know that as well. Wait a minute. We going to tell him we falling back and he going to what? Well, go to war to prove a point? Well, let's just do it on the low. And Carney, he don't care. Oh, he's hostile with it. Yeah, I see it constantly all over the news, social media, YouTube. Yeah, he's traveling. He's out and about. Meeting with everyone is possible, you know, because they got to make up for that loss of the U.S. So what the U.S. was able to provide, you got to be able to get a little bit from each country now. And make, you know, separate agreements. You can't have all the agreements with one country like how you had with the U.S. or you were trying to get. That was the issue everyone learned before. Rather, you branch off and you have different relationships with other countries. Okay, we got this understanding. Okay, we got this understanding. We got this understanding. Okay, we got this understanding. Why? Because this country couldn't, you know, they didn't have that understanding with this and this. We didn't see eye to eye with certain things. You can't try to do it all with one country. And I feel like that's what everybody is starting to realize when it comes to the U.S. Because the U.S. is just not fair partners. And they have to get over. They have to be in charge. They have to have the full benefit. I told you, I've been calling this for the longest. And look, the whole world is awake. They all are aware. If us, let's say normal people on the outside, I ain't no world leader. If I notice certain things like this and it's so predictable, what makes you think the other world leaders, they got to control their country? Hello? What makes you think they don't notice it? Come on, what makes you think other people out in the public won't notice this? Like, come on, man. That dependability in the United States, that trust is gone, so we can't depend no more. So everybody branching out to everyone. Oh my goodness.
The states head on. They adapt, they diversify,
Yup.
and they quietly reduce their dependence.
Yup.
This is why Mark Carney traveled to both China and Qatar to secure new trade deals for Canada. And this is the critical shift most people miss. The world is not dividing into pro-America and anti-America camps. It's dividing into countries that can tolerate instability and countries that can't. Middle powers in Europe, Asia, the Middle East, and the Global South are all drawing the same conclusion. They want options, and trust becomes more valuable than threats. When it was Trump's turn to speak at Davos, he boldly laid out Europe's choices on Greenland. You can say yes, and we will be very appreciative. Or you can say no, and we will remember. European leaders are not stupid. They've seen the pattern in how Trump consistently treats Europe. Remember, Europe is not in the taco territory like China and Israel. Europe is much closer to Venezuela, and Trump has an opportunity to apply pressure. Even if the Greenland situation is resolved, Europe will remember how Trump treated them. And Fareed Zakaria, one of the most brilliant American political analysts, said it best. Power is more sustainable when it is exercised with restraint, and influence is larger when allies feel dignity rather than fear.
Power is more sustainable when it is exercised with restraint, not abusing your authority, being level-headed, understanding everyone, putting yourself in others' shoes, being respectful and understanding, being humble with the position given to you. And influence is larger when allies feel dignity rather than fear. Basically, pride. You know? We want to show pride in working with each other, knowing that we are allies and not the enemies. And everybody wants to feel that way. Not fearing their ally, like, oh, they're going to snake us? What's going on? Or when you wake up, it's something new. Now you got terror slapped on you. Wait a minute. We didn't even talk on the phone or nothing. You gonna throw tariffs on our country? Like that? Damn. You know? No. This is what I'm talking about, man. Beautiful quote.
Restraint and influence is larger when allies feel dignity rather than fear. But of course, the Trump administration will tell you the complete opposite. If you listen to the voices of Scott Bessent, Howard Lutnick, they are telling U.S. citizens how brilliant Donald Trump is in negotiating. Their message to the world is, look at Trump. He threatened military action against the Europeans only to bring them to the negotiating table. And America is winning because of Donald Trump. But the United States already has a military base in Greenland. The U.S. could have expanded its capabilities easily through cooperation with Europe, rather than empty threats. At Davos, Trump announced the formation of a new organization he calls the Board of Peace, which he believes one day could actually replace the United Nations. But when you look at its initial members, countries like Belarus, Kosovo, Vietnam, Uzbekistan, Hungary, and Indonesia, it becomes clear that this is not a serious alternative to a global institution. This is what's left of the America's global standing after 1 year of Donald Trump in office. Power doesn't come from declarations. It comes from legitimacy, and legitimacy can't be improvised. And in contrast, China rejected Trump's invitation to the Board of Peace, and instead pledged its allegiance to the United Nations. Here is what Germany's chancellor had to say about it.
China, with strategic foresight, has worked its way into the ranks of the great powers. The United States' global pole position is being challenged, and Washington reacts by radically reshaping its foreign and security policy.
Honestly, it's not surprising to see this response from the German leader, because China does have tremendous leverage on the world stage. China is the world's factory and the largest trading partner to over 120 nations. Even Donald Trump knows this. Just listen to how cordial and respectful Trump talks when the subject matter is China.
But I've always had a very good relationship with President Xi of China. He's an incredible man. What he's done is amazing. He's highly respected by everybody.
Interesting enough, China's speech at Davos also went viral, as countries applauded the Chinese leadership who had this to say about the future. Everyone should be equal before the rules, and a very small number of countries should not have privileges based on strength. The world cannot return to the law of the jungle, where the strong prey on the weak. Every country has the right to safeguard its legitimate interests. China is committed to expanding the global economic and trade pie.
Yep.
We are not only willing to be the world's factory, but also the world's market. Everyone, we've reached a tipping point in the world, and now I want to show you how these changes in geopolitics will affect the future of your money and where the next great opportunities are for investment. Because over the last year, I've featured several successful companies on this channel who have been focused on gold and silver, and for good reason. Gold is approaching $5,000 an ounce. Silver just soared past $100 an ounce, and several of those companies, like US Gold Mining and Vizsla Silver, have performed very well as that trend has played out. But what I'm watching now is what comes next, because when precious metals move like this, it often signals something bigger underneath the surface, a broader shift towards strategic and critical minerals. And one metal in particular has caught my attention: titanium. Titanium isn't a metal most people talk about, but governments and defense planners think about it constantly. It's lightweight, incredibly strong, corrosion resistant, and absolutely essential for aerospace and defense. In fact, up to 20% of global titanium demand comes from defense alone, and a modern F-35 fighter jet can be nearly 40% titanium by weight. And here's where things get interesting. The global titanium supply chain is extremely concentrated. China controls close to 60% of titanium processing, which has raised serious concerns across North America as geopolitical tensions continue to rise. For the US and Canada, securing domestic reliable sources of titanium is no longer optional. It's strategic. That's why I want to highlight a company called Saga Metals. Saga Metals is a Canadian-based exploration company focused on critical minerals, including titanium, right in Labrador, Canada, a stable, mining-friendly jurisdiction with strong infrastructure. Their flagship radar titanium vanadium project is actively being drilled, even through winter conditions, as they work to define meaningful resource. What I also like is that Saga isn't a one-asset story. Beyond titanium, their portfolio includes exposure to vanadium, iron, lithium, and uranium, all metals tied directly to finance, clean energy, and national security supply chains. With governments increasingly focused on resource independence, and with critical minerals moving higher on strategic priority lists, the window for new North American suppliers to establish strategic relationships is a must for national security.
Well, I tell you, if Canada was to become a state, which would never ever happen in history, ever, Trump or the government would have stripped Canada out of everything. What? All of your metals, all of your minerals, materials, everything gone. Everything. Or at least it would have been within the US, which means it's the United States, because y'all would have been a part of it, which means, like, what you gonna do about it? Or say, you have joined us, this is out. He knew what he was doing, and he knew what he wanted. So much that Canada can offer is what I'm saying. And I been knew this.
With critical minerals moving higher on strategic priority lists, the window for new North American suppliers to establish strategic relationships is a must for national security. As legacy sources face increasingly geopolitical uncertainty, projects with tangible infrastructure advantages matter more than narratives. With direct, year-round access via Highway 510, proximity to the Cartwright Deepwater Port just 30 kilometers away, offering tidewater shipping capability, and access to up to 824 megawatts of clean baseload power from the Churchill Falls and Muskrat Falls hydroelectric complexes, this project is positioned to matter as markets tighten. Saga Metals is already up over 178% the past 6 months alone, but like the silver and gold trajectory, I believe there is still a lot more upside. Saga trades in the US under the symbol SAGMF and in Canada under the symbol SAGA. And if you want to learn more, I've included a link to their website in the description below. Also, I'm very excited to announce that next month, I'm personally going to be traveling to Labrador, Canada.
Oh, that sounds amazing. Man, I've always wanted to go to Labrador. So it looks so small and nice and peaceful. And it blows my mind how people live on the water. I'm like, this is your everyday life. This is normal. This is normal to you. They probably, yeah, Strac. This is normal. All right, well, you know what I'm saying? Like, I'm on dry land. If I want to see some water, I got to drive about 30 minutes out, baby. I got to drive 30 minutes out to that beach. Now, I know that is a blessing, still being able to be 30 minutes away from the beach, seriously. But living on the water, can't compare. You can't compare it to that, man. Everybody, please share your honest thoughts and opinions down below in the comment section on this whole entire thing that's going on, man. We've seen this unfold since day one. You know, we knew what was coming. I've been calling it. But it seems like rather than a back and forth controversy and arguments and threats and stuff, even though only Trump was sending threats to Carney, he's a little more intellectual, you know? A wise man can play fool, but a fool can't play wise. He's working on the low, strengthening your economy, strengthening the government, allowing people to get jobs. He's handing out more opportunities for everyone rather than just himself, and it's bigger than just the ego. And I feel like rather than just the back and forth, these people have been going out, you know, out of their ways. And I feel like he's been breaking generational curses, though, for real, because Canada has had beef with a few countries for years. For years. And Mark Carney has decided to step out of his comfort zone and travel there. Shake hands with those people and settle differences. Wow. Now, doesn't that go to show who's really the main issue within this whole thing? It's crazy how, you know, people representing Trump, people like on his side representing him, said that Canada was the main issue for all of this. I know you guys seen that video. I seen it. I was like, It don't make no sense. But we literally see how mature, how intellectual and wise Mark Carney is with his words and decisions. So we know who the main issue is within this whole thing. And it's never going to get better. This just, you know, woke everyone up. It opened eyes a lot. And, you know, everyone's making smarter decisions now. You can't put all your trust into the U.S. now, especially when you waking up just making decisions now. That's like straight up. I'm waking up. Imagine waking up. Imagine like being, okay, I always refer to relationships, bro. Imagine waking up, you know, the day before everything was cool, and then you wake up and then your partner just immediately bashing you, or they want to leave because of this or that. Wait, what was this? When was this an issue? We've been cool for years. We've been together for years. Since when was this an issue? And you telling me you want to leave now, or this or that? Come on. It's like, it's so weird and heartbreaking, you know? And confusing. It's like you don't even get a chance to really go through the full emotions because it's like, huh? What is going on? You know, like what I'm confused. What's going on? And I don't know how Mark Carney does it. I don't know how he's able to deal with this. I don't know what is going through that man's mind. I don't see no gray hairs. The man's still looking young. So I don't think this is stressing him out one bit. He home getting his shoulders rubbed, as a matter of fact, and he's sitting there plotting up a new way. Who else can we do business with? Because we got to make up for this loss. Because we ain't going back. As like we said, we ain't going back. Man, feel free to like, comment, subscribe, turn on post notifications on. Share your honest thoughts and opinions in the comments down below. I love reading all the comments. Seriously. Feel free to follow the Twitch. Subscribe to all my other YouTube channels in the description down below. I hope to catch you all in the next reaction video. Flood my comment section with more videos for us to react to. Stay safe.